A young woman, disheartened by her past relationship, unexpectedly kisses a stranger, unaware that he is a wealthy millionaire. What he did next will astonish you. Before we dive into the tale, please share a comment and let us know your location. Delight in the tale. Lucy Cooper's day had begun on a rather unfortunate note. Initially, her morning meal was disrupted by an erratic pigeon. Then, her quirky boss insisted she rewrite an entire article due to misplaced commas, when in truth, it was merely a smudge on her boss's glasses. Yet there is silence. Silence. It was a stark contrast to find her former partner in that upscale jewelry shop, selecting an engagement ring. "Oh no," she whispered, attempting to conceal herself behind a necklace display. However, the moment had passed. Ryan Carter, the very person who ended things with her 3 months prior, claiming that relationships are merely a snare of the capitalist system, stood there, hand in hand with an astonishingly beautiful woman, as he placed an absurdly lavish ring on her finger. "What do you think of this one, my dear?" he inquired with a gentle tone that Lucy had never encountered before. Her stomach churned. The woman emitted a sweet, melodic laugh, revealing a diamond that sparkled like a celestial body. "It's absolutely stunning, my dear. I am eagerly anticipating my future as Mrs. Carter." Lucy almost lost her balance. She had officially reached a state of complete chaos. And to add to the turmoil, Ryan caught sight of her. For a fleeting moment, Lucy experienced the sensation that her very essence had detached from her physical form. She longed for the earth to simply engulf her entirely. Ryan regarded her with a self-satisfied grin that seemed to declare, "I was the first to move on." "Is that you, Lucy? Excellent." She mustered a smile, pivoted gradually, and locked eyes with Ryan's astonished expression. "Ryan," she declared, feigning excitement. "Wow, what a surprising and completely unawkward twist. Are you still residing here?" he inquired, arching an eyebrow, as though she were an artifact from a bygone era that ought to have disappeared long ago. "And you continue to draw breath?" Lucy retorted, her arms crossed defiantly. Samantha emitted a feigned chuckle, wrapping her arm around Ryan's with a sense of ownership. "Oh my, Lucy, you look just as you always have," she remarked with an over-the-top charm. "Feels as though time stands still, doesn't it?" Lucy sensed her mind simmering with fury. "And you appear increasingly synthetic. What transpired? Has your Instagram filter spilled over into reality?" Samantha tightened her jaw, a silent storm brewing within her. Ryan cleared his throat, attempting to bring the passive-aggressive standoff to a close. "So, are you seeing someone special?" Lucy stood still. "Beg your pardon?" He was genuinely curious about her relationship status. Was he attempting to validate his triumph? As if she remained in her room, tears streaming down her face, indulging in ice cream while the soulful melodies of Adele played in the background? And to make matters worse, Samantha leaned in with a self-satisfied grin. "Oh, Lucy, you're not in a relationship, are you? However, there's no need for concern. Time is still on our side. Love can blossom for some even after the age of 40. That was the end. Her patience had run out. Just as Lucy was about to respond, she was unexpectedly enveloped by a powerful arm around her shoulders. "Hello, darling." Lucy stood still. The rich, calming, and effortlessly smooth voice whispered softly beside her ear. Before her mind could fully grasp the situation, a warm hand settled on her shoulder, holding her with such ease that it felt as if they were truly a couple. "Apologies for my tardiness, darling. Have you been waiting for a while?" Ryan and Samantha's faces drained of color. Lucy acted without a second thought. She simply took action. Before reason had a chance to step in, she spun around and pressed her lips against his. The kiss was impulsive and daring. A kiss filled with longing. A kiss solely for the sake of existence. What's even more frustrating, she felt the warmth of the stranger's kiss in return. Not with astonishment, but with complete tranquility. Lucy caught the sound of Samantha's sharp intake of breath and noticed Ryan's jaw tighten in response. Flawless. Task successfully completed. When she finally pulled away, Lucy turned to face them with a self-satisfied, knowing smile. Could you remind me what your question was? Ryan appeared as though he had just gulped down a frog. Samantha clutched his arm tightly, as if she were on the brink of bursting forth with emotion. And then, as if the turmoil Lucy had just unleashed wasn't sufficient, the stranger escalated the situation even more. "Shall we depart, my dear?" he remarked, a mischievous grin dancing across his face. "We still have to choose that wedding ring." Lucy almost gasped for breath. Who is this person? Marriage celebration? Before she had a chance to respond, he was already guiding her away. In that instant, she understood the gravity of the error she had just committed. She hadn't merely pressed her lips to a faceless passerby. She had pressed her lips against Nicholas Scott, the richest, most influential, and most unreachable billionaire in the city. And even more troubling, he appeared to be relishing it. Lucy had encountered numerous missteps throughout her journey. As a young girl, she decided to color her hair a vibrant shade of green, purchasing snug footwear solely due to a discount, intoxicated messages to her former partner. However, locking lips with a complete unknown in the heart of a shopping center? A new record has been set. And now, she found herself in the clutches of his abduction. Perhaps saying kidnapped was a bit of an overstatement. Yet Nicholas Scott was guiding her through the mall as if they had shared countless moments together. Lucy attempted to brush off the attention of onlookers. Naturally, their gazes were fixed. He possessed an absurd level of attractiveness. She donned a t-shirt featuring a fierce unicorn, its expression radiating defiance. The disparity between them was so ridiculous that one might assume he had brought her on merely as a prop. Hold on. Lucy anchored herself to the earth, compelling him to halt. What just transpired? Nicholas tilted his head, a glimmer of amusement dancing in his eyes. It seems that you kissed me, and you returned my kiss. Naturally, it would have been impolite to do otherwise. Lucy opened her eyes wide. Impolite? You say that as if it were a wedding toast. He smirked. Was it not? It certainly was not. We must focus on enhancing our performance. Lucy sensed her essence drifting away from her physical form. For the sake of all that is holy, who are you? Nicholas lifted an eyebrow in curiosity. Are you truly unaware? Lucy scowled. Is it advisable for me to do so? This is truly captivating. This is absolutely chilling. Nicholas offered a vexing little grin. There's no need for gratitude regarding the rescue. Lucy gazed at him, her expression a mix of shock and incredulity. Salvation? I did not request assistance. Your ex was handling you like a tattered, forgotten relic. Did you genuinely expect me to simply remain in place? Lucy parted her lips. Oh no, he made a valid observation. Yet she was far from ready to acknowledge that. Excellent. Having completed your noble act, we can now proceed with our lives. Nicholas arched an eyebrow. Is there really no gratitude to be found? Should I send you a card that expresses my gratitude for adding complexity to my life? Nicholas wore a sly grin. A dinner will suffice. Lucy opened her eyes wide. Excuse me? Dinner is on you, my friend. She released a laugh that was filled with disbelief. Do I owe you something? You were the one who kissed me. In a moment of spontaneity. Let's refer to it as a compensatory impulse, then. Lucy folded her arms across her chest. What if I decline? Nicholas gave a slight shrug. I'll inform your former partner that we are deeply in love. Lucy gasped, struggling to catch her breath. Surely you wouldn't take that step. Care to challenge me? Lucy closed her eyes, searching for a solution to escape this predicament. Regrettably, she was unable to locate one. All right, a single dinner. Nicholas beamed. Flawless. I will arrive to collect you at 8 o'clock. Lucy directed an accusatory finger toward him. If this is part of some wealthy individual's sinister plot, I demand legal representation. Nicholas let out a soft laugh. You will make it through. Lucy had her doubts about that. After a long stretch of time, Lucy found herself gazing at her image in the bathroom mirror. What am I up to? She was on the verge of sharing a meal with the man she had kissed, completely unaware of his identity. This was not a date. This was a plea for healing. With no escape in sight, Lucy clutched her purse and steeled herself to confront what lay ahead. The restaurant exuded such elegance that Lucy felt as though she ought to don a crown. The waiter regarded her with an expression that suggested he was well aware her finances were on the brink of distress. "If you're in need of a kidney, I'm willing to donate one after dinner," she whispered to Nicholas. He grinned. "I've got everything under control. In that scenario, I shall request a plate crafted from gold and a glass adorned with diamonds." Nicholas chuckled softly. They settled into their seats, and Lucy made an effort to overlook just how at ease he appeared. "So, Lucy," he rested his elbow on the table. "Share some details about your background and interests." Lucy arched an eyebrow. "What is the reason behind this?" "Because I enjoy being aware of the company I keep at dinner." Lucy folded her arms across her chest. "I navigate daily responsibilities, manage expenses, and sometimes share fleeting moments with unfamiliar faces to break free from past relationships." Nicholas beamed with delight. "Intriguing. Is that an innate ability or something you've learned on your own?" "Unfortunately, there isn't a technical course available for that." "What a pity. I would sign up." Lucy let out an exasperated sigh. "What about you? What else occupies your time apart from being an annoying billionaire?" "I skillfully navigate circumstances to benefit myself." Lucy let out a derisive laugh. "Indeed, I've observed that." Nicholas gave a slight shrug. "And yet, here you find yourself sharing a meal with me." Lucy gazed contemplatively at her glass of wine. "I was left with no options." Nicholas let out a soft laugh. She loathed the thought, yet she found herself genuinely enjoying the moment. And then he revealed the shocking truth. "I would like to present a proposal." Lucy scowled. "If it has any illegal aspects, count me out." Nicholas beamed with delight. "Remain by my side for a month." Lucy expelled her water with a sudden burst. "Excuse me? You understood me. I was certain of it. This is an offering of a human life." "Absolutely not. I just need you to act like my girlfriend." Lucy fixed her gaze on him. "What is the reason?" Nicholas twirled his wine glass with a thoughtful air. "Some individuals simply require that belief." Lucy arched an eyebrow. "And I am the optimal selection." "Following that kiss?" "Absolutely." Lucy sensed a warm flush spread across her cheeks. "So what's in it for me?" Nicholas beamed with delight. "Anything you desire." Lucy nibbled on her lip. This was the most ludicrous notion imaginable, yet it held the promise of enjoyment. Lucy recognized that making hasty choices had never been her forte. She had a tendency to spend 30 minutes deliberating over which ice cream flavor to choose. The kind of person who spends days pondering the decision to purchase a new outfit. Yet here she found herself, seated opposite Nicholas Scott, the wealthiest man in town, earnestly contemplating a fabricated dating agreement. She gazed at him, utterly relaxed, as though he were finalizing a significant business transaction. Lucy remained uncertain whether this was an odd dream or a significant error looming ahead. "Allow me to clarify this." She inclined her head. "You want me to act as if I'm your girlfriend for a month. In return, I can request anything I desire." Nicholas acknowledged with a faint smile. "Precisely." Lucy squinted her eyes in concentration. "What is it about me? Consider bringing in a seasoned performer, perhaps a model, someone who exudes sophistication and has a more refined wardrobe." Nicholas cast a quick look at her t-shirt and couldn't help but smirk. "The unicorn possesses a distinct character." "I appreciate that." Lucy let out an exasperated sigh. "Concentrate, Nicholas. What makes me the right choice?" He inclined his body just a bit. "Since you were unaware of my identity." Lucy opened her eyes wide. "What relevance does that hold?" "You pressed your lips to mine, unaware of my true self. It was an unintended occurrence. An unfortunate incident." Lucy exhaled deeply. "You have yet to clarify the necessity of all this." Nicholas twirled his wine glass between his fingers, contemplating his words with deliberate precision. "My family holds specific expectations, and a significant occasion is approaching. Arriving alone could lead to some complications. Lucy folded her arms across her chest. What type of issue are we discussing? The sort that brings forth countless inquiries, a proposed union orchestrated by others, and perhaps even a film chronicling my romantic escapades. Lucy stifled a chuckle. Are they truly that intense? You truly have no idea. Lucy paused, her words hanging in the air. His request wasn't all that unreasonable. It was actually quite amusing. And upon reflection, she realized there were a few advantages for her as well. For instance, Ryan would realize that she had progressed to a new chapter. She would experience the allure of life among the affluent. And if the situation became too much to handle, she could simply turn and leave. Nicholas appeared to sense her inner conflict and offered a smile. Seems you're leaning towards a yes. Am I right? Lucy scowled. Please refrain from misrepresenting my thoughts. I'm not obligated to. I'm already familiar with how you approach negotiations. She squinted at him, her gaze sharp and piercing. So what defines my unique approach? Initially, you create an intense moment. Then you act as if you have no interest. Yet, beneath the surface, your curiosity is far too strong to resist. Lucy's jaw dropped in disbelief. That is simply not accurate. Nicholas arched an eyebrow. Not at all? Simply decline and move on. Lucy sealed her lips. Oh bother. He captured her. She averted her gaze, lost in thought. Nicholas was indeed correct regarding the intrigue. After all, when would she have another opportunity to experience the true essence of life in the realm of billionaires? Lucy inhaled deeply. All right, I'm on board. However, I have stipulations. Nicholas beamed. Naturally, you do. Lucy raised a finger. To begin with, I am not under your employment. I refuse to follow your commands. It's surprising to see you struggle with following directions. Excellent. Additionally, I seek a reciprocal arrangement. Nicholas folded his arms. Curiosity piqued. What is it exactly? Lucy beamed. I would like your assistance in finding a more suitable job opportunity. Nicholas blinked, taken aback. Are you looking for employment? Absolutely. I'm weary of my present situation. If I'm going to participate in this wild scheme, I expect something valuable in exchange. Nicholas appeared to ponder the matter deeply. Then he extended his hand. Agreed. Lucy gazed at his hand, lost in thought for a moment. She realized she was on the brink of entering a realm that was entirely unfamiliar to her. However, do you realize? What's stopping us? She grasped his hand firmly. Agreed. Nicholas smiled broadly. Greetings to my realm, Lucy. The following morning, Lucy stirred awake to find a message waiting for her on her phone. Nicholas, I'll swing by to get you at 10. Choose attire that feels easy and relaxed. Lucy scowled. Comfortable for which purpose? She was uncertain about what lay ahead. Yet she was skeptical that he was planning a picnic. Indeed, she was correct. At precisely 10 a.m., Nicholas arrived in front of her house in a car that likely exceeded the value of the entire property. Lucy gazed at the car, then turned her attention to him. Are you kidding me? Doesn't this seem a bit excessive? There are no limits when you possess flair. With a dramatic roll of her eyes, Lucy climbed in. So where are we headed? Nicholas offered her an enigmatic smile. Just wait and see. Lucy had a strong aversion to surprises. Yet, it seems that Nicholas had a penchant for the enigmatic. Upon reaching their destination, she finally grasped the reason behind it all. They found themselves in an upscale boutique. Lucy surveyed her surroundings, a look of bewilderment on her face. What is our purpose in this place? Nicholas graciously held the door ajar for her, a gesture of courtesy that spoke volumes. If you want to be my girlfriend, you should embrace the style that fits the role. Lucy stood still. Hold on a moment. Are you implying that my attire isn't satisfactory? Nicholas cast a fleeting look at her unicorn t-shirt. Your unicorn seems to be in need of a well-deserved getaway. Lucy inhaled sharply, taken aback. This unicorn represents individuality. Now it may serve as a representation of retirement. With a sigh of frustration, Lucy entered the store. And 30 minutes later, she found herself enveloped in gowns that were priced as high as her monthly rent. She slipped into a few, sensing the weight of her own inadequacy amidst the opulence surrounding her. Yet, as she noticed Nicholas observing her with a pleased expression, a change occurred. He was truly dedicated to this parade. And oddly enough, she was beginning to see the humor in it all. Lucy was still grappling with the reality that, for the upcoming month, she would be playing the role of Nicholas Scott's pretend girlfriend. The entire scenario resembled a dramatic scene from a television series, where the protagonist finds herself entangled in a wild arrangement, and in an instant, her world is completely transformed. At this moment, she was enveloped in a whirlwind of emotions, gliding towards a high society event in a lavish car, beside the town's most coveted billionaire. She looked at Nicholas, who was steering with a composure that suggested this was merely an ordinary day for him. In contrast to her, who experienced a knot in her stomach at the mere idea of encountering all those refined individuals. His calm demeanor only heightened her anxiety. "Do you really think this is a wise choice?" Lucy inquired, her fingers clutching the hem of the new dress he had chosen for her. She remained in disbelief that she was adorned in something so lavish. If she were to spill juice on it, she might find herself in a position where selling a kidney would be necessary to cover the costs of the damage. "You've already committed to the deal, so there's no turning back now," Nicholas said with a playful smirk. "Moreover, you're going to excel. Simply smile, give a wave, and resist the urge to flee. Running away doesn't seem like such a terrible idea," she murmured, folding her arms tightly. "Could you refresh my memory on how you managed to persuade me to go along with this?" "I'm quite convincing," he remarked casually, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. Lucy let out a frustrated breath, yet found herself at a loss for words. He had a way with words that made it nearly impossible to say no. Upon their arrival at the event, Lucy felt an unsettling certainty that she had wandered into the wrong venue. The grand ballroom stretched out before her, a sea of elegantly attired guests cradling their champagne flutes, engaged in conversations so sophisticated that she felt it would be futile to even try to grasp their meaning. This was a scene straight out of a magazine or a film, a far cry from her usual experiences. "Just remain close to me and behave as if you're meant to be here," Nicholas murmured. Grasping her hand gently, he stepped inside. "Easy for you to say," she muttered, yet allowed him to guide her into the room. The response was instantaneous. As Nicholas stepped through the door, every gaze was drawn to him. Lucy sensed the inquisitive glances directed at her, as though onlookers were attempting to unravel the mystery of the woman accompanying him. She inhaled deeply and adjusted her stance. She had consented to this, so she had to behave as if it were entirely ordinary. "Nicholas." An elegant woman approached, her voice calling out to Lucy. She donned a perfect dress and a captivating smile, yet her gaze was fixed on Lucy, assessing her from head to toe. "Claire, it's wonderful to see you," Nicholas remarked, offering her a courteous smile. "I would express a similar sentiment, yet I find myself more astonished by your organization." "You never bring anyone to these events?" Claire smiled, though a keen curiosity laced her tone. "Who is your companion?" Nicholas effortlessly draped an arm around Lucy's waist, drawing her nearer with a relaxed grace. "This is Lucy, my girlfriend," he declared with such an effortless ease that Lucy nearly chuckled. He may have felt a twinge of anxiety about the deception, but his demeanor betrayed none of it. Claire lifted her eyebrows, a look of astonishment crossing her face. With a gentle smile, Lucy reached out her hand. "Pleased to meet you," she remarked, attempting to project confidence. With a curious look, Claire replied, "The pleasure is mine," as she shook her hand. "I mean, no disrespect, but you don't quite fit the profile of the women Nicholas typically chooses to accompany him." Lucy offered a courteous smile, yet internally, she felt the urge to inquire about the true meaning behind those words. "It seems he opted for a different approach," she responded, maintaining her poise. Nicholas emitted a soft laugh next to her, clearly relishing the conversation. Claire, however, held her gaze on Lucy for a few lingering moments before redirecting her attention to Nicholas. "I trust she's prepared to face this world, my dear. Not everyone can match your pace." Without a moment's pause, Nicholas asserted that she was doing quite well thus far. Claire offered a smile that fell short of her eyes as she turned and walked away, probably to share the news with the other guests. With a heavy sigh, Lucy turned her gaze toward Nicholas. "I'm not fond of her," he remarked nonchalantly that most people do not. Lucy let out an exasperated sigh. "You might have given me a heads up that these individuals are powerful." Without prompting, he responded with a mischievous grin. For the next hour, they navigated the event, exchanging pleasantries with unfamiliar faces and eavesdropping on discussions about investments, corporate mergers, and lavish getaways. She made every effort to appear engaged, yet truthfully, her mind was preoccupied with the risk of stumbling over her gown. Suddenly, in the stillness of the night, a voice she recognized echoed from behind her. "Is that you, Lucy?" She spun around, and a knot formed in her stomach. Ryan, the former partner at the same gathering. Naturally, the universe took great pleasure in complicating her life. He gazed at her in utter disbelief, as though the very idea of Lucy being present was beyond his comprehension. Samantha, ever the loyal companion, grasped his arm tightly, her expression mirroring his shock. "What brings you here?" Ryan inquired, his voice laced with incredulity. Before Lucy could utter a word, Nicholas wrapped an arm around her waist, offering a gentle squeeze as though bracing for a challenge. "She's with me," Nicholas declared, his tone resolute yet tinged with a hint of humor. "I assumed that was clear." Ryan blinked, utterly taken aback. Samantha appeared on the verge of overflowing with curiosity. Are you both in a relationship?" Ryan inquired, evidently striving to comprehend the situation. With a bright smile, Lucy embraced the opportunity before her. "Indeed, we are united." Ryan's lips parted and pressed together repeatedly, yet silence enveloped him. He looked back and forth between Nicholas and Lucy, as if anticipating a chuckle or a revelation that it was all just a jest. "Since when has this been the case?" Samantha inquired, her arms crossed defiantly. "For some time now," Lucy responded, attempting to maintain a nonchalant tone. Ryan appeared utterly bewildered. Nicholas, in contrast, appeared rather satisfied with the circumstances. "It was lovely to see you, but we must be on our way," Nicholas said, softly guiding Lucy away. As they strolled away, Lucy finally released the breath she had been holding in. "I can hardly believe he was here," she murmured. "Text, a curious coincidence," Nicholas remarked, casting her an amused glance. "I must commend you on how well you managed that situation." "I'm a remarkable performer," she responded, attempting to brush aside the whirlwind of thoughts in her mind. He grinned. "Are you prepared to continue with the plan?" Lucy inhaled deeply. She had overcome the initial hurdle. Now, she needed to determine if she could maintain this facade without losing her true self in the process. "Let's see where this journey takes us," she remarked, finally at ease. Nicholas smiled, a knowing glint in his eye, hinting that this tale was just beginning. And deep within, Lucy understood it as well. Lucy remained uncertain about how she had navigated the event without stumbling over her dress or inadvertently exposing something inappropriate. Yet, against all odds, she had managed to succeed. The true issue, however, was that now, seated opposite Nicholas Scott in one of the most opulent offices she had ever encountered, she understood that this chaos was merely starting. "Let's make it official," Nicholas said, casually flipping through some papers as if this were a routine part of his day. "This document details the terms of our agreement." Lucy fixed him with a piercing gaze. "Agreement? Surely you can't be serious?" Nicholas arched an eyebrow. "Absolutely not. This is a matter of business, Lucy. Surely, you didn't believe we would merely exchange pleasantries and leave everything to chance, did you?" She folded her arms across her chest. "I somewhat wished it would be more straightforward." "Nothing involving my family is simple," he said, pushing the papers across the table toward her. "Furthermore, the agreement guarantees that you will not find yourself at a disadvantage." Lucy grasped the documents and began to peruse their contents. Her gaze swiftly traversed the stipulations detailing their respective duties. She was anticipated to join him at social gatherings, uphold the narrative that they were a couple, and, above all, ensure that everything remained under wraps. In exchange, Nicholas would arrange a new position for her and take care of any costs associated with their agreement. Incredible. This feels like one of those movie contracts where the heroine ends up falling for the billionaire boss, Lucy murmured. Nicholas beamed. As if we were in a film, she sighed dramatically, suggesting we were already at the midpoint of the narrative. So, I just signed this, and for a month I'm officially your partner? Precisely. Lucy bit her lip, contemplating her options. What occurs if I decide to withdraw midway? Just give me a heads up, and we can part ways discreetly, Nicholas responded. However, it would certainly be wise to steer clear of that. Ultimately, my family anticipates that I will achieve a sense of stability in my life. Lucy stifled a chuckle. Consistent existence? You hardly know anything about me. That's something my family doesn't need to be aware of. With a heavy sigh, she cast her gaze over the contract once more. She realized this was utterly absurd. Yet, beneath the surface, she realized there was little at stake. Moreover, it would serve as an excellent narrative in the future. With a steadying inhale, she grasped the pen firmly. Okay, let's get started. Nicholas beamed with contentment as she affixed her signature to the document. Greetings to the agreement, Lucy. As she passed him the document, it was as if she had crossed the threshold into a realm entirely unfamiliar. The following days flew by more quickly than Lucy had anticipated. Initially, she believed that acting as Nicholas's girlfriend would seem unusual, yet, astonishingly, he rendered it effortlessly authentic. Their agenda was already brimming with activities. To her astonishment, she found herself adapting to the swift tempo of his universe. That evening, Nicholas arrived to escort her to yet another glamorous charity gala, filled with the elite of society. This time, Lucy was prepared for what lay ahead. Intrigued looks, understated inquiries, and perhaps a hint of challenge from those familiar with him. Yet rather than feeling anxious, she was beginning to grasp the mechanics of the situation. You're improving quite a bit, Nicholas remarked while driving. Thank you very much. She responded with a feigned sense of pride, claiming she had learned from the best. I trust that was sincere. Only a small amount. Nicholas chuckled, and Lucy came to the realization that, in spite of the peculiarity of the situation, they were genuinely connecting. Upon their arrival at the event, they found themselves welcomed by a flurry of photographers and attendees, whose attention appeared to be captivated more by the city's latest couple than by the genuine purpose of the charity. Lucy maintained her stance, recalling all the lessons she had absorbed from past experiences. Smile, nod, and steer clear of engaging in discussions that might complicate their narrative. However, true to form, as her life was never one to follow a predictable path, it wasn't long before the unforeseen made its entrance. Nicholas, my dear. The sound of a woman's voice resonated throughout the space. Lucy turned and noticed a woman coming closer, her smile radiant and captivating. She possessed a statuesque grace, exuding an air of familiarity that suggested a deep and enduring connection with Nicholas. Olivia. Nicholas acknowledged her presence, his demeanor courteous yet lacking in genuine warmth. Lucy recognized it immediately. She was a former partner. Olivia cast a brief glance at Lucy before redirecting her focus to Nicholas. Will you not introduce me? Nicholas rested his hand on Lucy's waist, drawing her in just a bit closer. This is Lucy, my partner. Olivia's eyes shimmered with a blend of astonishment and intrigue. Partner? And you? That came as a surprise. Lucy pressed her lips together, feeling the anticipation build as the conversation was poised to take a captivating turn. Love is a realm of unexpected wonders, she said, her smile illuminating the moment. Nicholas stifled a chuckle as Olivia arched an eyebrow in curiosity. Indeed, Nicholas has always been a challenge to persuade. You must be someone truly remarkable, Lucy said with an innocent blink. He's truly more approachable than he appears. It's all about understanding the right triggers to activate. Nicholas cleared his throat next to her, unmistakably grasping the underlying implication. Olivia chuckled, Yet Lucy sensed that the laughter lacked authenticity. Olivia remarked, her gaze fixed on Lucy with keen curiosity. I hope you two are happy. However, should you find yourself in need of guidance, remember that I have walked that path before you. Lucy inclined her head ever so slightly, a smile gracing her lips. I appreciate it, but I believe I'm managing quite well at the moment. Nicholas encircled her with his arm, offering a gentle squeeze. You certainly are, he remarked, bringing the discussion to a close before Olivia had the chance to elaborate. Once Olivia had distanced herself, Lucy exhaled deeply. Former partner, she inquired merely to verify. Indeed, did everything conclude positively? It seems we hold contrasting perspectives on the essence of a relationship. Lucy squinted, her gaze sharp and focused. Nicholas smiled at the ambiguity of the response. And you inquired far too often, Lucy chuckled and shook her head. Despite her best efforts to understand Nicholas, he consistently managed to evade her inquiries. They devoted the remainder of the night to participating in various events. For the first time, Lucy understood that she truly belonged. What had begun as a strictly professional setup was starting to feel more familiar. And that, for her, was somewhat unsettling. As they departed the event and Nicholas navigated the drive home, Lucy was enveloped in a sense of fatigue yet curiously content. She had never envisioned that she would adjust so swiftly to a realm so unlike her own. Before she exited the vehicle, her gaze lingered on Nicholas. So, when do you think your family will finally accept that we're a genuine couple? He let out a soft laugh. Most likely not. No need for concern. Everything is going smoothly. Lucy nodded, her hand moving toward the door handle with purpose. Just as she was about to leave, Nicholas called out to her. Lucy. She glanced over her shoulder. What is happening? Nicholas paused briefly, then a smile broke across his face. You possess more skill in this area than you realize. Lucy sensed a flicker within her, yet she chose to dismiss it. I am exceptional. You simply took too long to realize. She gave him a playful wink and exited the car, suddenly aware that, after what felt like ages, she was genuinely enjoying herself. But what could that possibly signify? She was completely unaware. Perhaps she wasn't ready to uncover the truth just yet. Lucy was beginning to acclimate to the notion of playing the role of Nicholas Scott's pretend girlfriend. Or at least, that was her belief, until he revealed to her that morning that they would be dining with his family that evening. Shall we have dinner? Are you with your family? Lucy's eyes grew wide, clutching her coffee cup as though it were a lifeline. It seems that small detail in the contract was overlooked. While it may not have been explicitly stated in the contract, it is indeed an integral aspect of the arrangement. Nicholas responded nonchalantly, glancing over some papers. That's not fair, she shot back, placing the cup firmly on the table. I must admit, I'm not the best at maintaining a facade. What if I express something incorrectly? What happens if your family discovers the truth behind the facade? Then simply carry on with your expertise, he remarked, barely glancing away from the page. Improvise? Lucy sighed, her voice heavy with exasperation. The simple for you to express that. You entered this realm of existence. I find myself uncertain about which fork to select at a formal dinner. Nicholas finally raised his gaze and offered her a faint smile. Just follow my lead and everything will be fine. She crossed her arms, a hint of skepticism in her posture. Do you really believe that's the case? Indeed, Lucy exhaled deeply. This is bound to end in disaster. As Lucy entered the magnificent hall of the Scott family residence, her initial reaction was to pause and take a deep breath. The mansion was so grand that she felt the need to proceed with caution, lest she accidentally disturb something outrageously valuable. The dining table stretched out, adorned with an elegant arrangement of plates that appeared to cost more than her monthly rent. Nicholas's family had already assembled, and as they walked in, every gaze shifted to her. Nicholas, a woman exuding elegance and radiating warmth through her smile, rose to her feet. At last, you made the choice to come see us. Hello, Mom, he said, planting a kiss on her cheek before shifting his attention to Lucy. This is Lucy, my partner. Lucy sensed the weight of Nicholas's mom's scrutinizing gaze upon her. To her astonishment, the woman responded with a warm smile of welcome. "My dear Lucy, what a delight it is to finally make your acquaintance." Nicholas consistently refrains from making introductions to anyone. It seemed like he might have intended to embrace a life of solitude indefinitely. Lucy offered a tentative smile. "He ultimately came to understand that life without me was simply not an option," she teased, casting Nicholas a sly glance. He stifled a chuckle and nonchalantly rested a hand on her back. "Precisely. Please take a seat, take a seat. Shall we indulge in a meal?" Nicholas's mother indicated the chairs at the table with a wave of her hand. Lucy settled beside Nicholas, and fortunately, the dialogue began smoothly. His mother inquired about her experiences, her profession, and the story of their first encounter. Lucy adhered to the outline, narrating the tale they had practiced. All was proceeding unexpectedly smoothly until the door to the hall swung open, revealing a man stepping inside. Nicholas's demeanor instantly grew stern. "Father," he whispered, holding his stance steady. Lucy adjusted her posture in her chair. That was his father, a figure of authority, with a solemn expression and an air of confidence that was unmistakable. He walked over to the table, offering a warm greeting to all present before his gaze settled on her. "So this is Lucy," he remarked, assessing her presence. "Indeed," Nicholas responded with conviction. "My partner." The man appeared to lack conviction. "Quite fascinating. You've consistently steered clear of deep connections. And now, unexpectedly, you arrive with someone." A hush enveloped the room for a brief moment. Lucy sensed the gravity of those words and realized that Nicholas's dad remained unconvinced by the performance. "Love unfolds in its own time," she remarked, her smile radiating assurance. Nicholas's mom beamed, clearly pleased with the reply, while his dad maintained a piercing stare. "Interesting. So what's the story of how you both crossed paths?" Lucy began to respond, but Nicholas interjected before she could finish. "In a bookstore," he remarked, catching her off guard. Lucy glanced at him, bewildered, yet he maintained a serene demeanor. She clutched a book that had caught my eye for purchase. In a moment of simultaneous desire, our hands collided as we both laid claim to it, igniting a spirited debate over who deserved it more. Lucy grasped the concept immediately and dove in with her own spontaneous contribution. "He attempted to assert that he had spotted it first," she remarked, exasperation evident in her eye roll. "However, I was determined not to surrender so readily." She threw down the gauntlet for a coffee. The one who swayed the other would claim the book. Nicholas completed his task, casting her a knowing glance. "So, who emerged victorious?" Nicholas's mother inquired, a hint of amusement in her voice. "Clearly it's me." "Don't fool yourself," Nicholas shot back. "I allowed you to come out on top." The entire table erupted in laughter, and even his father appeared to be more at ease. Lucy came to the astonishing conclusion that, against all odds, they had succeeded in persuading everyone. The dinner unfolded smoothly, filled with discussions about journeys, careers, and family happenings. Lucy made every effort to stay engaged and reply in a genuine manner. Gradually, she began to understand that, despite her initial apprehension, she was finding pleasure in the company of Nicholas's mother, and even appreciating his father's straightforward manner of communication. As they bid their farewells and departed from the mansion, Lucy released a deep, weary sigh. "I felt like I might lose consciousness in that moment." Nicholas beamed with delight. "You performed exceptionally well. Your father nearly sent me sprawling with nothing more than a glance. He treats everyone that way. Please don't take it to heart." Lucy regarded him with a wary glance. "Do you really think he purchased it?" Nicholas paused briefly before responding. "He continues to harbor uncertainties. At this moment, everything is going well." With a heavy heart, Lucy let out a deep sigh. "Excellent. Now, our task is to maintain this facade until the agreement is finalized." Nicholas paused, observing her intently. "Do you really believe this will be a walk in the park?" Her lips curved into a smile. in relation to the present. Absolutely. The issue lay in the fact that Lucy remained unaware of what awaited her. Perhaps the situation was on the brink of becoming far more intricate than she had anticipated. Lucy was still reflecting on all that transpired during the Scott family dinner. She found herself in a precarious situation, yet somehow emerged unscathed, maintaining her composure and, remarkably, avoiding any mishaps along the way. Yet one thing remained clear. Nicholas's father appeared to harbor doubts. As they traveled in the car, making their way home, Lucy stole a sideways glance at Nicholas, who maintained a serene demeanor behind the wheel. He appeared pleased with her performance. Yet Lucy couldn't shake the feeling that they were treading on fragile ground. "Your dad didn't believe it," she said, shattering the stillness. Nicholas clarified that he has doubts. "However, up to this point he hasn't reached out to us. That's because he's biding his time for the perfect moment," Lucy shot back, folding her arms defiantly. "Did you notice the expression in his gaze? He was completely unconvinced by that tale." Nicholas gave a slight shrug. "He may choose to be suspicious as much as he likes. What truly matters is that, for now, we're still in the game," Lucy sighed. "That fails to provide me with any solace." Nicholas cast her a playful glance. "I'm compensating you to keep your mind at ease." She gazed at him intently. "I am not receiving any payment from you." "I am," he declared, adorned in luxurious attire, indulging in exquisite meals, and living a life filled with experiences beyond your wildest dreams. Lucy squinted, her gaze sharp and focused. "I remain uncertain about whether this experience holds value." "Ah, you're really enjoying this." Lucy began to respond, but then fell silent once more. In reality, he had a point that couldn't be dismissed. The following morning, Lucy awoke to an inundation of messages on her phone. She blinked several times, bewildered, and when she checked the notifications, she nearly dropped her phone. A message arrived from a friend. "Lucy, are you seeing Nicholas Scott?" The second one coming from a different friend. "Why didn't you share that you have a billionaire boyfriend?" The third call, originating from an unrecognized number. "Greetings. We represent a publication and are interested in interviewing you regarding your connection with Nicholas Scott." Lucy's eyes grew large with surprise as she continued to scroll down. At least 15 additional messages of a similar nature were present. "What's happening?" she whispered softly, lingering in the haze of slumber. Only when she clicked on one of the links did she truly comprehend the seriousness of the situation. There she stood, gracing the cover of a gossip site, alongside Nicholas. The photograph captures a moment from dinner the previous night, where he embraced her waist as she beamed at a member of his family. Nicholas Scott has officially acknowledged his relationship. Who is Lucy Cooper, the woman who captured the heart of the billionaire? Lucy emitted a strangled noise and tossed the phone onto the bed as though it were ablaze. No, no, no. This was not included in the strategy. Just as a wave of anxiety began to rise within her, the phone began to ring. Her gaze fell upon the screen, and naturally it was Nicholas. She inhaled deeply before responding. "Have you come across this?" She launched into her response before he had a chance to speak. "Good morning to you as well," Nicholas responded with a hint of amusement. "I did indeed see it. What led to this situation?" He remarked casually, as if it were nothing out of the ordinary. "We weren't destined to remain unnoticed indefinitely. However, it seems that the topic is on everyone's lips now. Messages are coming my way. I've got magazine representatives reaching out for an interview." Nicholas let out a deep sigh. "Disregard it. It will pass in a matter of days." Lucy let out an exasperated sigh. "Do you genuinely believe it will be that straightforward?" "Absolutely. The media consistently uncovers fresh narratives." She remained uncertain, yet in that moment, she found herself at a loss for action. "This is likely to lead to complications. It's entirely up to you. Now take a deep breath. Are you prepared for the gathering this evening?" Lucy stood still. "Which event are you referring to?" "An elegant evening affair. Be prepared by 7. "Nicholas, you can't simply bombard me with this information." "Absolutely, I can. This is our agreement." Lucy clenched her jaw. You enjoy watching me unravel, don't you? I enjoy observing your approach to it. Lucy shut her eyes and inhaled deeply. Consider yourself fortunate that I'm unable to withdraw from this agreement at this moment. I understand. I look forward to seeing you at 7. Before she had the chance to object, he ended the call. Lucy gazed intently at the phone. This individual is truly testing my patience. At precisely 7 o'clock, Nicholas arrived to collect her. He donned a sleek suit, exuding an air of sophistication as if he had just walked off the pages of a fashion magazine. Meanwhile, Lucy was preoccupied with adjusting her dress, making a concerted effort to avoid stumbling over her own feet. You look beautiful, Nicholas said as soon as she entered the car. You're just saying that to maintain your image, she responded, toying with her earrings. What if I am being honest? Her gaze fell upon him. Your words always carry purpose, Nicholas. He offered a sidelong smile. Clever. Lucy let out an exasperated sigh. Upon their arrival at the event, she came to the unsettling realization that it would be far more daunting than she had anticipated. The venue brimmed with photographers and elite socialites, all poised to consume her with their gaze. Nicholas stepped out of the car and, before she could second-guess herself, grasped her hand and guided her down the red carpet. Simply smile, he murmured. Lucy maintained a cheerful expression, yet her heart was pounding. People snapped photos, murmured amongst themselves, and she felt as though she had stepped into a film. Upon their arrival in the ballroom, Nicholas drew her near. Inhaled deeply. She let out a sigh, coming to the awareness that she had been holding her breath all along. This is overwhelming. You'll adapt to it in no time. Lucy had her doubts about that. The evening unfolded with warm exchanges, cheerful expressions, and new acquaintances. Lucy exerted every effort to stay in sync, yet it seemed as though she was performing in a production for which she had not been given the lines. In the stillness of the night, an unexpected figure emerged and seized her arm. She pivoted, taken aback, and found herself staring directly at Samantha. You've got guts, the woman remarked, her smile lacking warmth. Lucy opened her eyes wide. Pardon me, could you clarify that? Samantha folded her arms across her chest. Do you really believe you're deceiving anyone? So you're truly with Nicholas? Lucy mustered a smile. Do you feel envious? Samantha chuckled, though the sound lacked sincerity. It strikes me as peculiar. Not long ago you were simply an everyday girl. Now you stand here, as if you have every right to be a part of this world. Lucy sensed a wave of annoyance building within her. What's the issue with that? The issue is, I am aware that this isn't genuine. Before Lucy had the chance to reply, Nicholas emerged beside her, his hand resting gently on her waist. Is there an issue at hand? He inquired with a sense of tranquility. Samantha offered a disingenuous grin. No, not a single one. I was just chatting with Lucy about how unexpected it is to find her here. Nicholas beamed. Lucy never fails to astonish me. That's precisely why I hold her in such high regard. Lucy blinked, caught off guard and uncertain of her response. Samantha fixed her gaze, her silence speaking volumes. As they turned to leave, Lucy cast a glance at Nicholas. Your actions were intentional. What did you do? It was clear she held no faith in it. Nicholas gave a nonchalant shrug. Now she has diminished reasons to question. Lucy gently shook her head, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. Seems you enjoy engaging with others, don't you? Only when the endeavor holds true value. Lucy found herself questioning whether that was meant to be a compliment or a veiled threat. Yet, there was an undeniable awareness within her that the circumstances were becoming increasingly intricate. And most troubling of all, she found herself uncertain if she truly desired it to conclude. Lucy was still grappling with the whirlwind of events that had unfolded. The dinner with Nicholas's family, the articles surfacing on gossip sites, and now, as if all of that wasn't sufficient, Samantha choosing to confront her directly. The cosmos seemed to be challenging her endurance. The gala continued to thrive, with distinguished guests socializing in the opulent hall, and Lucy sensed the weight of every gaze upon her. Rather than succumbing to intimidation, Lucy resolved not to grant Samantha the pleasure of witnessing her discomfort. "You don't need to respond to her taunts," Nicholas remarked next to her, observing as Samantha strolled off. "I know," Lucy replied, as she accepted a glass of juice from the waiter's tray. Honestly, she could benefit from exploring a new hobby. Nicholas chuckled softly and took a sip of his beverage. "I must say, I anticipated you would feel a bit more anxious regarding everything happening here." With a heavy sigh, Lucy exhaled her frustration. "Oh, I feel a flutter of anxiety. However, after enduring your father's questioning and spotting my image on tabloid sites, I find nothing shocking anymore." "Well, perhaps you won't be taken aback by what follows," he remarked nonchalantly. Lucy paused, her drink halfway to her lips, and regarded him with a wary gaze. "What actions did you take?" "I didn't do anything," he said with that innocent tone she had come to recognize with caution. "However, I believe it's important for you to be aware that my mom was quite fond of you and wishes to arrange a more personal dinner for us." Lucy almost gasped for breath. "Another meal to savor? I hardly made it through the first one," Nicholas chuckled. "My mom believes she has finally discovered a woman capable of managing my complexities. At this juncture, I find myself questioning my own sanity." He cast a sidelong glance at her. "You can still back out," Lucy scoffed, "and forfeit the opportunity to continue feigning wealth for an entire month?" "Absolutely not." Nicholas beamed, evidently delighted by her response. The evening unfolded steadily, devoid of any significant surprises, until an older gentleman, clad in a meticulously tailored suit and exuding an air of authority, made his way toward them. "Nicholas, it has been some time," the man remarked, gripping Nicholas' hand with a strong shake. "Mr. Whitmore," Nicholas acknowledged him with a courteous nod. "How have you been faring?" Lucy watched the exchange, swiftly understanding that this individual held significant importance. Indeed. And who might this young lady be?" Nicholas rested his hand on Lucy's waist, introducing her with a relaxed demeanor. "My partner, Lucy." With a warm smile, Lucy reached out her hand. "It was a pleasure to make your acquaintance," as the man took a moment to assess her before extending his hand for a shake. "The delight is all mine. So, Nicholas, when do you intend to introduce Miss Cooper to the realm of business?" Lucy blinked several times, taken aback. "Oh, really?" Nicholas interjected before she could finish her thought. "Soon, Mr. Whitmore. Lucy possesses considerable talent and has the potential to be an excellent collaborator for upcoming projects." Lucy endeavored to maintain a composed demeanor, yet the astonishment lingered unmistakably. Nicholas had never brought up the idea of including her in business matters, and now he was making that statement in front of one of the most powerful figures at the event. "It's reassuring to hear," Mr. Whitmore remarked. "We'll discuss it further at a later date." Nicholas gave a nod, and the man strolled off, exchanging pleasantries with other guests as he went. Lucy glanced at Nicholas, her eyes narrowing with suspicion. "Could you clarify what that was all about?" He offered a faint smile, a small enhancement to the trustworthiness of our connection. "So, you expect me to act like I'm knowledgeable about business now?" "There's no need for pretense," he responded. "However, if you're seeking a more fulfilling position, this might present a valuable chance." Lucy folded her arms across her chest. I sensed there was an underlying twist to this arrangement. "Take it easy," Nicholas remarked, reaching for another glass from a waiter's tray. "You will manage it perfectly." Lucy remained wary, yet chose to ponder it at a later time. At this moment, her only desire was to navigate the night without encountering any further unexpected events. Yet fate had a different course in mind. Shortly thereafter, as they strolled through the corridor, a waiter glided by, presenting an array of appetizers. Lucy, lost in thought, snatched one up without a second glance. It was only when Nicholas seized her wrist that she understood something was amiss, just as she was poised to take a bite. "What seems to be the issue?" she inquired, her brow furrowed in confusion. "Do you have an allergy to seafood?" Lucy scowled. "Negative." "What is the reason?" "Imagine just grabbing a shrimp canopy, and if you had an allergy, this would be an incredibly unfortunate way to discover it. She cast her gaze upon the appetizer before shifting her attention to him. Did you notice what I picked to eat? Nicholas gave a slight shrug. You are my partner. It is expected of me to show concern for those matters. Lucy blinked, absorbing his reply. That was surprisingly considerate. He offered a faint smile. Don't become accustomed to it. Lucy rolled her eyes, yet a small smile crept onto her face. The remainder of the night passed swiftly, and before long, they found themselves in the car heading home. I believe we aced the test tonight, Lucy remarked, releasing a deep sigh. You were fantastic. Nicholas chuckled knowingly, and humble as well. Lucy beamed, gazing out the window as the city unfolded before her. Now that the entire media is on board with this narrative, what comes next? Nicholas paused for a moment, contemplating his response. At this point, we must continue persuading my family. Oh, wonderful. More dinners filled with critical gazes. Precisely, she exhaled. If I make it through this, I've certainly earned a reward. You're already receiving an award, he responded. A month within my realm. She cast him a sidelong glance. I find myself pondering if that is truly a gift or a burden. Nicholas beamed. You'll discover it shortly. Lucy felt a chill at his words, for within her, she recognized the truth of his statement. A whisper within her suggested that this arrangement was taking on a weight it ought not to bear, and that was precisely what filled her with fear. Lucy stirred from her slumber, the relentless buzzing of her phone cutting through the morning stillness. For a fleeting moment, she contemplated letting it go unanswered. Her body remained weary from the previous night, and the last thing she desired was to confront yet another onslaught of unexpected events. Yet, upon seeing Nicholas' name illuminated on the screen, she understood that her options had vanished. Are you aware that there are certain times that are considered suitable for making a phone call to someone? She replied, her voice laced with drowsiness. Good morning to you as well, Nicholas responded, clearly having been awake for hours. Do you have any plans for today? Lucy lay there, her brow furrowed in thought. Negative. What is the reason behind this? It is essential for us to strengthen our trustworthiness. Lucy propped herself up in bed, her mind now alert and aware. Could you clarify what that means? Images, she blinked. Indeed, with our presence now recognized by the media, it's essential that we present ourselves as a genuine couple. Lucy pondered, her fingers running through her hair in contemplation. Are you suggesting we take a photo together? Precisely. A relaxed excursion, perhaps a charming midday meal for two. Something that will make people think, they are truly in love. With a heavy heart, Lucy let out a deep sigh. This contract is clearly of great importance to you, and so should you. I shall await your arrival in 1 hour's time. He ended the call before she had a chance to protest. Lucy gazed at the phone, then pressed her face into the pillow. What have I done to warrant this? An hour later, Lucy descended from the apartment and discovered Nicholas casually leaning against a sleek luxury car that seemed to have been plucked right from a glossy advertisement. He sported sunglasses and wore a relaxed expression, as though he were simply savoring an ordinary day. You pretend like you didn't pull someone into a fake date at the last minute, Lucy muttered as she got into the car. Think of it as preparation for what lies ahead, he remarked, igniting the engine. Upcoming events? Are you intending to pull me into more scenarios like this? You were fully aware of what you were signing up for. She folded her arms across her chest. I anticipated having to act as your girlfriend, but I wasn't prepared for the onslaught of photographers pursuing us. Step into my realm. With a soft sigh, Lucy gazed out the window as Nicholas navigated the bustling city streets. Before long, they reached a sophisticated restaurant featuring a stunning outdoor terrace ideal for casual photography. As they stepped inside, Nicholas graciously drew out the chair for Lucy, allowing her to take her seat before settling into the one opposite her. Oh, look at you, a true gentleman, Lucy teased, merely maintaining the facade. She chuckled and picked up the menu, only to realize that Nicholas had shifted his focus away from it. What seems to be the issue? He inclined his head just a bit, conveying a message through a mere glance. Lucy turned her attention to where he was looking and noticed a cluster of photographers nearby, attempting to blend into the background. "Have they arrived yet?" she murmured. "Absolutely. I mentioned that we had to appear credible." Lucy let out an exasperated sigh. "Does this imply I need to appear all affectionate while I dine?" "Precisely." She snatched a slice of bread from the basket resting on the table and directed her finger at him. "Surely, you realize this is the most absurd thing I've ever undertaken, don't you? You've mentioned that previously, and I will reiterate it once more." Nicholas offered a warm smile, lifted a glass of wine, and gestured in a toast. "Cheers to the ideal strategy." Lucy lifted her glass in unison. "Flawless? I'd describe it as quite daring. And where's the excitement without a touch of danger?" She shook her head, a smile playing on her lips. Amidst all the chaos, she couldn't help but acknowledge that she was enjoying herself more than she ought to. Post-lunch, Nicholas proposed a stroll in the park, and Lucy observed that the photographers trailed them there. "Do they never feel weary?" she whispered softly. "It's their responsibility." With a resigned breath, Lucy chose to go along with it. As Nicholas grasped her hand, she remained still, not withdrawing. As he flashed a smile her way, she returned it with one of her own. As he leaned in to whisper something close to her ear, likely just for the sake of the cameras, she erupted in laughter, as though he had shared the most hilarious joke imaginable. He remarked that you excel at this. "I excel in the art of performance." Nicholas offered a sidelong grin. "Perhaps you're simply enjoying yourself." As she prepared to respond, a familiar voice cut through the air, halting her words. "This certainly piques my curiosity." Lucy pivoted, her stomach twisting at the sight of Ryan, who stood there, observing her with a gaze full of doubt. "Ryan," she gasped, taken aback. He folded his arms across his chest. "It struck me as odd to witness you with Nicholas Scott, but experiencing this firsthand is truly beyond belief." Lucy endeavored to maintain her poise. "What brings you here?" As he strolled, his gaze remained fixed on her. "What about you? Assuming the role?" Nicholas remained quiet beside her, simply watching. Lucy folded her arms across her chest. "Do you feel envious?" Ryan emitted a sardonic chuckle. "This all seems rather convenient to me." Lucy inhaled deeply. "I have no obligation to clarify anything to you." Ryan cast a brief glance her way before redirecting his focus to Nicholas. "Do you truly understand what you're about to embark on?" Nicholas wore a smile, yet his gaze was keen and alert. "I have complete confidence." Ryan's brow furrowed, yet he remained silent. He cast a final glance at Lucy before turning to leave. She released a deep, weary breath. That was quite unusual. Nicholas buried his hands deep in his pockets. It's evident that he hasn't moved past it. Lucy let out an exasperated sigh. "I still can't shake off the embarrassment he caused me, but that doesn't mean I confront others about it." Nicholas chuckled heartily. "You managed him effectively." "Thank you, but I would rather not encounter him again." Nicholas beamed. "Given all this media buzz, it seems unlikely that he'll be able to move on from you anytime soon." Lucy let out a heavy sigh, sensing that he was indeed correct. The entire performance was unfolding more successfully than anticipated, yet simultaneously, it was beginning to resonate with a deeper sense of authenticity. Lucy found herself uncertain whether that was a positive development or a ticking time bomb ready to explode. For she was beginning to understand that the boundary between illusion and truth was becoming perilously fragile. Lucy found it difficult to determine the moment when everything began to feel more tangible than it ought to have. Perhaps it was at the dinner table with Nicholas's family that she discovered a fleeting enjoyment in his mother's presence. Perhaps it was while strolling through the park with Nicholas grasping her hand, and she found herself surprisingly okay with it. As she sat in the cafe, gazing at her phone screen and encountering yet another headline about the couple of the moment, Lucy started to uncover the true source of her unease. She felt as though she was fully immersed in the experience. "You're looking at that phone as if it might attack you," Nicholas remarked, seated across from her with a pair of coffees in hand. Lucy took hold of hers, her gaze fixed on the screen. Everything about this still feels surreal. Nicholas reclined in his chair at ease. That sounds familiar. I will continue to express this. This level of exposure may be familiar to you, but it's new territory for me. Nicholas savored a sip of his coffee. You're managing this situation far more effectively than I anticipated. Lucy let out a weary sigh, her hand cradling her face in a moment of contemplation. If I had realized that a single impulsive kiss could lead to all of this, perhaps I would have chosen to flee in the opposite direction. Nicholas offered a sidelong grin. It certainly wouldn't have been as enjoyable. Lucy rolled her eyes, yet a faint smile tugged at her lips. What comes next? What comes next? Nicholas paused, lost in thought. He leaned in, resting his elbows on the table, and fixed his gaze on her. I want you to stay with me, Lucy blinked. Indeed, the contract is still ongoing. It's not merely about the contract, she frowned. Could you clarify what you mean? Nicholas inhaled deeply. My father remains wary. He seeks more tangible evidence of our genuine connection. Lucy experienced a shiver that coursed down her spine. So, what's your strategy for making that happen? Nicholas paused briefly before declaring, I want you to move into my house. Lucy's eyes grew large with surprise. Excuse me? It would be just for a short while, he clarified swiftly. It's important for my family to recognize that we are committed to this. Lucy carefully placed the coffee on the table, avoiding any chance of a spill. Are you suggesting that I relocate to your residence? This is absolutely wild. Well, until now, this entire situation has been quite wild, Nicholas said with a faint smile. However, this is truly something else entirely. Nicholas inclined his head ever so slightly. Are you committed to making the plan succeed or not? Lucy began to speak up in protest, but hesitated. She recognized that Nicholas was correct. To maintain the facade until the very end, they had to enhance its credibility. Yet cohabiting with him? That was an overly ambitious leap. I'm not sure I can manage this, she confessed, nervously biting her lip. Nicholas let out a weary sigh. Consider this. It may seem overwhelming at first, but take a moment to reflect on it. Your own space will be yours to enjoy. No adjustments to your routine will be necessary. We simply have to present ourselves as a couple sharing a home for some time. Lucy inhaled deeply. This continues to feel off. Nicholas folded his arms, observing her intently for a brief moment. So what's holding you back? She parted her lips to reply, yet found herself at a loss for words. Absolutely, the entire scenario was wild, but did she genuinely possess a compelling justification to decline? The most challenging aspect was that, despite her efforts to persuade herself otherwise, a fragment of her remained intrigued. What might it feel like to share more moments with Nicholas? She let out a weary sigh. I require a moment for reflection. Nicholas gave a slight nod. Okay, but please be quick. My dad is gearing up to put us to the test once more. Lucy let out a frustrated sigh and concealed her face in her hands. This contract is quite displeasing to me. Nicholas chuckled heartily. I can't stand family dinners. She raised her gaze and regarded him. It seems we've reached a balance. Nicholas lifted his cup, as though to offer a toast. To our mutual downfall. With a soft sigh, Lucy gently clinked her cup against his. To our collective downfall. The issue was that the more time she shared with Nicholas, the more challenging it became to recall that this was merely a performance. Lucy devoted the following days to contemplating the merits of accepting Nicholas's proposal. She endeavored to approach the situation with logic. Staying at Nicholas's house for a bit wouldn't be such a bad thing. He had already promised her that she would have her own space, and beneath it all, she understood that the arrangement was not meant to endure indefinitely. Yet the uncertainty remained. Was she able to maintain the distinction between reality and illusion? It was then that Nicholas extended an invitation for dinner at his home that evening, indicating that a conversation was necessary. Lucy consented, and shortly after the appointed hour, she found herself at the entrance of his apartment. He swung the door open, clad in a button-up shirt with the top few buttons casually undone. a sight that should be deemed unlawful as it rendered her utterly distracted. "Please enter," he said, moving aside to allow her passage. Lucy entered the room, her gaze sweeping across the surroundings. She had visited this place previously, yet she had never truly focused on the finer points. The apartment was expansive, yet it exuded a warm, inviting atmosphere. Nicholas strolled into the kitchen and picked up 2 wine glasses. "Have you come to a conclusion?" He extended his hand, offering one to her. Lucy grasped the glass, inhaling deeply before she responded. "Indeed, I will be relocating for a short while." Nicholas arched an eyebrow. "Is there no emotional manipulation?" He smiled, free from any emotional manipulation. "You'll adapt more quickly than you realize." Lucy felt a twinge of uncertainty, yet she was on the brink of discovery. In the days that followed, she gathered her belongings, and by the week's end, she had officially moved into Nicholas' home. The transition wasn't as challenging as she had anticipated, but cohabiting? Indeed, that unfolded into a different narrative altogether. Nicholas approached everything with a careful and deliberate mindset. He had a fondness for schedules and routines, and it appeared he was unfamiliar with instant coffee, as his coffee machine was more intricate than a NASA rocket manual. In contrast, Lucy favored robust, quick-brewing coffee, enjoyed the freedom of not adhering to a schedule, and was thoroughly dismayed to find that Nicholas meticulously arranged his clothing by hue and category. On the first morning, when Lucy entered the kitchen clad in a baggy hoodie and her hair in disarray, Nicholas paused to take her in before remarking, "I knew you had a relaxed vibe, but this is an entirely different realm." Lucy settled into her seat and picked up a slice of toast. "I stirred from my slumber. I'm all dressed and prepared to embark on the day ahead." "That's already a victory." Nicholas chuckled and took a seat opposite her. "Welcome to your new abode, Lucy." She took a bite of the toast, her eyes narrowing as she fixed her gaze on him. "If I come across a list of house rules stuck to the fridge, I'm done with this place." Nicholas lifted his hands. "There are no restrictions. Here are some simple guidelines." With a weary sigh, Lucy reached for her coffee. "This promises to be quite intriguing." In an instant, without even knowing it, Lucy made a move that would alter the course of her life forever. Though she repeatedly reassured herself that it was merely a contrived setup, cohabiting with Nicholas rendered that deception increasingly tangible. Lucy never envisioned herself residing in a billionaire's mansion, much less that this billionaire would be Nicholas Scott. In the initial days, she made an effort to remain as unobtrusive as she could, steering clear of any circumstances that might render their cohabitation even more peculiar than it already felt. However, she soon came to understand that it was unattainable. Initially, it was due to Nicholas's constant presence. He mentioned that he dedicated a significant amount of time to his work and didn't have much opportunity to be at home. Yet, strangely, he always appeared to have an abundance of time to playfully provoke her. "Is it your habit to leave your socks scattered about like this?" he inquired, arms crossed, his gaze drifting down to Lucy's feet, which rested comfortably bare on the sofa. "They are not dispersed. They are arranged with a creative touch." Lucy responded, her gaze fixed firmly on the show unfolding before her. I understand. Is modern art really just socks tossed on the floor now?" She seized a pillow and feigned throwing it at him. "You pulled me into this house. Now face the repercussions." Nicholas chuckled and settled beside her. "I anticipated a touch more elegance. You were already familiar with me prior to bringing me on board, Nicholas. You ought to have been aware of what you were stepping into." He simply smiled, and in that moment, Lucy understood that their playful exchange was beginning to feel oddly effortless. And that posed a challenge. The greatest difficulty of cohabitation wasn't the act of feigning a romantic relationship for the sake of others. It was the sensation that began to envelop Lucy when they found themselves in solitude. Consider that evening, for instance. An invitation had arrived for a charity event organized by the Scott family. It would be yet another one of those elaborate events where Lucy would have to wear a smile and feign belonging to that realm. Yet, on this occasion, an unusual sensation lingered in the air. As she put the final touches on her appearance, The sound of Nicholas calling her name reached her ears. Lucy. She exited the room and discovered him poised in the hallway, clad in a dapper suit. He clutched an object in his hands, a hint of uncertainty flickering across his expression. "Hello there." Nicholas approached and presented her with a small box, "Meant for you." With a furrowed brow, Lucy grasped the item and lifted the lid with deliberate slowness. Within lay a finely crafted necklace adorned with a petite, glimmering pendant. "Excuse me? I figured it would complement your dress," he remarked nonchalantly. Lucy regarded him with a wary eye. "This was not included in our agreement." "I understand. So what's the reason for handing this over to me?" Nicholas took a brief moment to gather his thoughts before responding. "Simply because I desired to." Lucy experienced a constriction in her chest. She hoped this was merely a performance, that he was simply striving to enhance the illusion. Yet, there was an unmistakable intensity in his gaze that suggested it was about more than that, and she was at a loss with that feeling. The charity event turned out to be a great success. Nicholas and Lucy circulated through the crowd, exchanging pleasantries with notable figures and stopping for a few snapshots. Lucy was beginning to acclimate to the inquisitive glances and murmurs surrounding them. What truly astonished her was Nicholas's unwavering presence beside her. This time he was genuinely engaged, not merely putting on a facade. He grasped her hand with confidence, chuckled at her humor with ease, and discreetly fixed her necklace at one moment when he believed no one was observing. Yet Lucy observed, and that was the moment she understood the true issue at hand. She found herself enveloped in the warmth of affection, yet she was unable to. This constituted a formal agreement, a falsehood, a situation that will conclude shortly. So why did her heart remain unaware of that? Upon returning home that night, the silence that enveloped them carried a distinct weight. It wasn't unpleasant, yet it carried a weight that Lucy couldn't quite articulate. She slipped off her shoes and sank onto the couch, utterly spent. "I have no desire to ever wear high heels again." Nicholas took a seat beside her, a smile gracing his face. "Your performance today was impressive. That's something you often mention." "Indeed, that is a fact." With a heavy sigh, Lucy turned her gaze toward him. Nicholas turned his face to gaze at her. In that instant, Lucy understood she was on the brink of a misstep. Yet she found herself unable to hold back. "This remains merely a contract, correct?" Nicholas paused in silence before responding. "Absolutely." Yet his expression conveyed a different message. Lucy yearned to trust his response. She sought to reassure herself that this remained merely a game. Suddenly, without any preamble, Nicholas raised his hand and tenderly brushed a strand of hair away from her face. It was a modest act, uncomplicated, yet it was sufficient to quicken Lucy's heartbeat. She had to escape that place. "Good night, Nicholas," she said hurriedly, rising to her feet and making her way to the bedroom, eager to avoid any actions that might complicate matters further. For if she lingered just a moment longer, she was certain she would lose her resolve. And she understood that, this time, there would be no way to feign its reality. Lucy remained awake throughout the night. She writhed restlessly in bed, attempting to push aside the torrent of thoughts surging through her mind. With each flutter of her eyelids, Nicholas's face emerged vividly in her mind. The manner in which he grasped her hand during the gathering. He casually adjusted her necklace around her neck, completely unaware of his actions. The piercing gaze he directed at her as he tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. This shouldn't hold any significance. Yet it happened, and therein lay the issue. As dawn broke and she resolved to step out of the bedroom, she discovered Nicholas in the kitchen. He was already dressed, sipping his coffee, as though it were just another ordinary day. However, for Lucy it was not the case. She inhaled deeply before uttering a word. "It's time for a conversation." Nicholas arched an eyebrow and placed his cup gently on the table. "This seems quite significant." "Simply put, it is," Lucy remarked, her arms crossed defiantly. "The agreement is coming to a close." He paused in silence, simply observing her. "Indeed. What comes next?" Shall we return to our usual routines? Nicholas inclined his head just a fraction. Is that truly what you desire? Lucy experienced a tightness in her throat. That was precisely the inquiry she had been striving to evade. The agreement would conclude. She would return to her existence. And Nicholas would continue to be the elusive billionaire he had always been. That is the way it ought to be. What was it about the thought of departure that caused a pang in her heart? She managed to smile. Absolutely. That was the agreement, correct? Nicholas maintained his unwavering gaze upon her. If that's what you believe. His tone carried an undertone that caused Lucy to pause. It felt as if he were anticipating her to utter something more. Yet she was unable to. For her, acknowledging her desire for more was synonymous with embracing uncertainty. Lucy had always struggled with the concept of taking risks. The subsequent days flew by in an instant. Lucy attempted to persuade herself that all was well. She continued with her daily rituals, pushing aside the heaviness in her chest that surfaced whenever she contemplated the moment she would need to gather her belongings and depart from the house. Nicholas, in contrast, appeared to be more aloof. He remained gentle, continuing to fulfill his role flawlessly. Yet, an undeniable weight lingered in the atmosphere. It felt as if they were both aware that a shift was imminent. Yet, neither was willing to be the first to acknowledge it. On the eve of the contract's conclusion, Nicholas finally shattered the stillness. Have you gathered your belongings? Lucy gazed at him from the other side of the room. Not at this moment. Nicholas gave a slow nod, remaining silent. She felt the urge to inquire whether he wished for her to remain. If this had merely been a game for him, or if, like her, he too was grappling with something that loomed larger than either of them. Instead, she simply smiled and replied, I'll be leaving tomorrow morning. Nicholas gave a brief nod again. Okay. The following morning, as Lucy completed the task of packing her suitcase, a knock echoed through the door. With a steadying breath, she prepared to unveil it. It was Nicholas. He stood there, hands tucked into his pockets, wearing an expression that left Lucy puzzled. Are you truly departing? He inquired, his tone softer than normal. Lucy attempted to smile, yet her efforts fell flat. That was the intention from the beginning, wasn't it? Nicholas's gaze lingered on her. Adjustments are necessary. Lucy sensed her heart pounding in her chest. Nicholas. He advanced a step. Please provide me with an answer to this. If I were to request your presence, would you remain? Lucy parted her lips, yet silence enveloped her. This was the moment. The instant she had been evading since the moment she understood this was more than merely a contract. She could effortlessly agree. She could acknowledge that, at a certain moment, this ceased to be a mere pretense for her. But what if Nicholas was merely inquiring out of a sense of pride? What if, the moment she agreed, he suddenly discovered that this wasn't what he truly desired? She had to play it safe. With a reluctant smile, she replied, Nicholas, let's not complicate things any further. For a brief moment, a spark lit up his eyes, yet he merely nodded with a slow, measured response. I comprehend. Without uttering another word, he departed. Lucy shut her eyes, grappling with a pain in her chest that she was reluctant to acknowledge. With her suitcase in hand, she inhaled deeply and stepped out into the world. The subsequent days passed in a haze. Lucy returned to her familiar routine, yet everything felt off. Her apartment seemed more confined. The coffee she once adored no longer held the same flavor. And all things, without exception, brought Nicholas to her mind. She attempted to brush it aside. She attempted to convince herself that it was just part of the ordinary flow of life. Ultimately, they had shared countless moments together. It was clear that adjusting to life without him would require some time. Let's enjoy ourselves with those who merely skim through the comments. Leave a comment with Coca-Cola. Only those who have journeyed to this point will truly comprehend. Let us proceed with the tale. However, a week later, while she was strolling past the window of a jewelry store at the mall, something captured her attention. The pendant. The very necklace Nicholas had bestowed upon her the evening prior to the charity event. She paused, gazing intently at the piece, her heart constricting with emotion. In that moment, clarity dawned upon her. She had erred. Lucy was quick to act. She hailed a taxi and headed directly to Nicholas' residence. The journey felt extended beyond the ordinary, and her heart raced within her chest. Upon her arrival, she inhaled deeply before pressing the doorbell. The minutes crawled by until, at last, the door swung open. Nicholas had arrived. The identical piercing gaze. The identical poised stance. For just an instant, Lucy caught a glimmer of astonishment in his gaze. "Is that you, Lucy? What brings you here?" She inhaled deeply, striving to collect her thoughts. However, she came to understand that a lengthy address was unnecessary. She stepped forward, raised her face, and pressed her lips against his. Felt unlike the initial kiss. There existed neither urgency nor instinctive drive. Something genuine existed. As she withdrew, her gaze met his, and a smile graced her lips. "I wish to remain." For a brief moment, Nicholas remained silent. He simply observed her, as if he needed to confirm her presence was genuine. At last, a smile graced his face. "It seems it took you some time to come to that understanding, didn't it?" Lucy chuckled, a sense of buoyancy washing over her for the first time in days. "You might have mentioned it earlier. I anticipated you would come to the realization independently." She folded her arms across her chest. "What would have happened if I hadn't arrived?" Nicholas gave a slight shrug. "I would have pursued you," Lucy smiled. "Is that so?" "Truly. Falling for you was never part of my plan, Lucy. Yet it occurred." Her heart softened. "I'm pleased it occurred." And then, for the first time, they kissed, free from any pretense. Lucy could never have foreseen the unexpected twist her life would take. She initiated this entire scenario merely to evade an uncomfortable predicament. At this moment, her heart was entirely captivated by Nicholas Scott. The past few months with him had truly been a whirlwind of emotions. Despite the absence of a binding agreement, Lucy continued to share her life with Nicholas. Initially, she was apprehensive that it might merely be a transient fantasy. Yet, with each passing day, she came to understand that it was not the case. Truly happened. To her complete astonishment, Nicholas appeared increasingly at ease with the thought of having her in his life. Naturally, cohabitation remained a whirlwind of activity. Lucy continued to leave her socks scattered throughout the apartment, while Nicholas maintained his habit of sorting the clothes by color. Yet, against all odds, it succeeded. She had never experienced such joy. Unbeknownst to her, Nicholas was scheming something intriguing. A grand scheme, and it featured a particularly lustrous ring. It began with an air of intrigue. Nicholas began to behave unusually. He engaged in enigmatic phone conversations, appeared deep in contemplation, and, on several instances, departed without disclosing his destination. Lucy attempted to brush it aside. Perhaps he was simply navigating some challenges at his job. After a week of observing peculiar actions, she resolved that an investigation was necessary. Thus, she took the most rational course of action. She trailed behind Nicholas, wearing oversized sunglasses and an enormous coat that seemed more suited for a comedic role than a serious mission. Lucy followed him through the bustling streets of New York, determined to uncover his hidden truth. He paused at a jewelry store. Lucy nearly experienced a small heart crisis. He was purchasing a ring? If it were an engagement ring, she might have needed to feign a swoon just to carve out a moment to absorb the revelation. However, Nicholas chose not to enter the store. He conversed with someone at the door before departing. With her curiosity piqued beyond the point of retreat, Lucy resolved to step inside. The saleswoman welcomed her with a courteous smile. "How may I assist you?" Lucy offered a tentative smile. Indeed, a tall and strikingly handsome man, exuding a certain methodical charm, just strolled past. Was he making a purchase? The saleswoman blinked several times. "Are you referring to Nicholas Scott?" Lucy managed to put on a smile. "Indeed, that's the one." The lady chuckled. He was orchestrating something extraordinary. Lucy's heart raced with excitement. Is it something truly remarkable, like exceptionally remarkable? The saleswoman wore a cryptic smile. You'll find out shortly. Lucy exited the store, her palms clammy and her heart pounding in her chest. At this moment, her only task was to be patient. The upcoming weekend, Nicholas extended an invitation to her for a special dinner. Lucy felt a growing sense of doubt. As he led her into the opulent restaurant, boasting a breathtaking view of the sprawling city below, she sensed that a momentous occasion was on the horizon. Indeed, it happened. Following dinner, Nicholas led her to the rooftop of the building. The evening air whispered softly as the city lights twinkled like stars beneath them. Lucy surveyed her surroundings, a wave of emotion washing over her as she took in the breathtaking view. This is truly exquisite, Nicholas. He beamed with delight. Not quite as lovely as you. Lucy opened her eyes wide. Wow, that was surprisingly enchanting. There are still a couple of surprises in store for you. Before she had the chance to inquire about his meaning, Nicholas lowered himself to one knee. Lucy stood still. Her heart raced with such intensity that she felt on the brink of losing consciousness. Nicholas retrieved a small box from his pocket and opened it, unveiling a breathtaking ring. Lucy raised her hands to her face. Oh my goodness! Nicholas beamed with delight. Lucy Cooper, it was never in my intentions to develop feelings for you. Yet it occurred. You disrupted my routine, brought unexpected laughter, and revealed that life can hold joy even amidst the chaos. Lucy sensed her eyes welling up with tears. That was surprisingly delightful. He chuckled softly. My charming and delightful Lucy, will you take my hand in marriage? Lucy was overwhelmed with emotion, her breath slipping away from her grasp. Yet, true to form, her intuition drove her to transform the moment into something exceptional. Rather than replying in a conventional manner, she feigned a state of deep contemplation. I'm uncertain. Are you prepared for a future where your wardrobe will no longer be flawlessly arranged by color? Nicholas lifted an eyebrow in curiosity. I have come to terms with that reality. As my collection of socks continues to spread haphazardly throughout the apartment, it promises to be quite the adventure. However, I embrace it. Lucy chuckled, dabbing at a tear that had escaped her eye. It seems I am left with no alternatives. Nicholas lifted an eyebrow in curiosity. So, is that a yes? She beamed with delight. Absolutely. He rose to his feet, lifted her effortlessly into his embrace, and twirled her joyfully before pressing his lips to hers. In that instant, Lucy understood that this kiss held an entirely different essence than the first. This time, certainty reigned supreme. They truly existed. The wedding unfolded as a magnificent display. The ceremony unfolded in the open air, amidst a delightful garden adorned with white blossoms and shimmering lights. Nicholas, dressed in a flawlessly fitted suit, awaited her arrival with a smile that sent a wave of warmth through Lucy's heart. As she glided down the aisle, the gentle strains of music enveloped her, making her feel as though she was experiencing the most exquisite moment of her existence. As she approached the altar, Nicholas gently grasped her hand. Your beauty is striking. Lucy beamed. You're quite impressive in your own right. The promises were filled with deep emotion. Nicholas reflected on how he never anticipated that an unforeseen kiss would alter the course of his life. Lucy shared how he showed her that love can be genuine even in its imperfections. And then at last they proclaimed their vows. As Nicholas pressed his lips against hers once more, Lucy realized that the ties of any contract, plan, or agreement had vanished. It was just the two of them, in unity, eternally. What are your thoughts on the narrative of Lucy and Nicholas? Share your reflections in the comments section. Please provide a rating for this story on a scale from 0 to 10. How would you rate it? Join our channel and tap the bell to stay updated on all our narratives. Don't hesitate to explore more heartfelt tales by clicking here on the final screen.